George of the jungle, strong as he can be.
Alright, so for those of you who have been through a Chapter 7 or a Chapter 13 bankruptcy, how do you refinance, or how do you go on and purchase your next home, and how does the bankruptcy affect you? That's what we're going to be discussing in thecreditjungle.com today. This is George Anderson, and thank you for joining. And we're just going to discuss the Chapter 7 because that one's pretty simple, and we'll just kind of do that as a segue. A lot of people would say, well, you know, we never were late on our house payment. We didn't miss a house payment. But when we filed a Chapter 7 bankruptcy, the attorney listed our mortgage company in there as a secure creditor in the Schedule A, and the value of our home and the balance on it and everything else, and we didn't even need to do that. Well, your attorney actually has your best interests in mind when they're doing that. And so here's the good news, here's the bad news. The good news, and if you're going to look here, I'm going to pull up a credit report and it's going to show that even though you might have had your bankruptcy discharged, you know, a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, the creditor, once they get notice that that bankruptcy has been filed on there, they are just going to quit reporting. So there is no current status. There's no way of telling from your credit report whether or not you've made your payment on time. So we have to get what is called a VOM, or a verification of mortgage, and we have to get that directly from the lender. You're not going to have any success calling your bank and saying, hey, could you please start reporting my payment history again? You're asking them to do you a favor, and you know, when you file a bankruptcy, you kind of put them in a compromising position, and I'll explain what that position is, but just it's not going to happen. So that's pretty simple. But that's the bad news about having a Chapter 7, is that your mortgage is probably going to not report ever again on your credit report until you refinance or sell that home and then purchase another one. But the reason your bankruptcy attorney did that is that it protects you from a future deficiency judgment. So for example, if the time came and you had to sell the house and you owed $300,000 on the home, and heaven forbid, maybe after your bankruptcy, now something else has happened, and now you're in a position where you're going to have that home get foreclosed upon. You don't have to file a bankruptcy to protect a deficiency interest or judgment against it, because when you filed your bankruptcy 2 years ago, 3 years ago, or whatever, if your attorney listed your mortgage company in here and the debt as a secured creditor, even though that bankruptcy happens, or the foreclosure happens after the bankruptcy discharge date, the Chapter 7 bankruptcy basically opens back up, and it will gather in the debt that is now unsecured. So if the home sold for $280,000 at the foreclosure sale, this is a $20,000 deficiency judgment that, in the absence of a bankruptcy, can come back and attach on your credit, be a judgment against you personally, attached to other property, and otherwise just start messing with you, which the banks are more than willing to do that. So the nice thing, the good side about the Chapter 7 is that because this was listed in there as a secured creditor, and the status changes now to this is paid off and there is a $20,000 unsecured debt, well, your Chapter 7 bankruptcy discharges all unsecured debt. So this, again, is basically washed out and extinguished. So the way that you get them to report, though, again, is this getting this verification of mortgage. That's all the lender's going to need. We understand that it's not going to report. We're not going to ask to see it on the credit report, but we are going to have some proof that that payment's been made on time for at least the past 12 months, and depending on the type of loan, it could be 24 months. So hopefully that's some good advice for you. Thanks for coming into thecreditjungle.com. My name is George Anderson. Push button, get mortgage professional, and I would love to talk to you about your situation. Have a great day.